Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the journey of leaders who have turned challenge into opportunity for growth and impact. Today I'm joined by Kenneth Harms, author, coach, and trainer, sales and leadership with over 40 years of experience. Kenneth has guided senior teams across Fortune 500 companies and growth organizations, built high performance team, and personally coached hundreds of professionals to active measurable success. His book Building Trust, Winning Work, share insights, the decades of practical experience. He will tell us about trust, leadership, and resilience that drive long-term impact. It's really a pleasure to have you on the show, Kenneth.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you. So, Kenneth, what were some of the challenges that shape you into who you are today?
That's a big one. That's a big question, right? So, what shaped me into who I am today? I would say that I got to go back and give props to the way I was raised. My mother and father, great people. My dad was a World War II veteran. Came back, married my mom, his high school sweetheart, and had my brother, and then had me. My dad worked. We're in New Jersey, and my dad worked as a longshoreman on the docks, and my mother was a cashier and a cook at a cafeteria. And so, hardworking, blue collar family, and taught us that anything was possible. You just had to work hard. Education was really important to them. They made sure my brother and I got great education, and learned how to be humble and grateful. And that was, the beginning of it all, I think, is what was sewn into me by my mom and dad. And then, you add everything else to it, education and then the work and your family. For me, I, found the love of my life when I was very young. I got married young and at 23. And so my wife was 22, and, we started off on this journey together, and there's ups and downs and, all kinds of challenges. You just have to continue to have faith and grind it out, be willing to do whatever it takes. I learned that from my dad too, because of course he survived World War II, but when he was working on the dock, sometimes the longshoremen would go on strike. And, there wasn't enough money to put food on their table. So my dad went out and he was a roofer, or he pumped gas at a local gas station, whatever it took to take care of his family. And, that made a very lasting impression on me, that you had to do whatever was necessary to get ahead.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Kenneth. So, losing your job out in Texas and relocating your family must have been life changing. How did that moment shape your approach to leadership and sales?
Yeah, so that was in Texas. I had moved the family from, I said, we're both East Coasters, my wife and I, born and raised in New Jersey, and took an opportunity. One thing about my career, I was always willing to take some risk. And so I got offered an opportunity in for me, a new industry. I was going from construction into the world of finance, and I moved the family to Dallas, and we were doing pretty good. But then there was a downturn in the economy and in the stock market, and unfortunately, that firm had to downsize, and I lost my job. And we had only gotten there less than a year before, and because of the housing downturn, we couldn't sell the house. I got offered a job in Sacramento, had to take it, and we moved across country. Now we're 3,000 miles away from all our family and friends from the East Coast, and now we're in Sacramento. And, it was starting all over again. I lost pretty much everything we had in that house. And now we were renting, and then eventually, we built it back up and hit the refresh button and started all over again. That was a difficult time. But again, I think for many of your listeners that might be of a younger generation, it's a great lesson learned that if you keep faith and you continue to believe in yourself and you continue to work hard, good things are going to happen. And good things did happen to me in my career.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Yeah, if you keep fit, definitely better things are going to come into being. And that was really inspiring, encouraging. Thank you, Kenneth. So, Kenneth, what is the doer-seller model? What is the doer-seller model? And why is it so efficient in building trust and winning work?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think I recently authored a book, and it's called Building Trust, Winning Work. And so I talk a lot about the doer-seller model, and I'll briefly explain that. There was probably a shift in the construction industry. I would say all architectural, engineering, construction, the what's known as the AEC industry, probably about 15 or more years ago, where the so-called rainmaker, big-time business developer that was responsible for bringing in all the work, those people became short in supply. They were also highly compensated, so there was a shift. And that shift was that two things happened. One, companies wanted to cut overhead. And two, owners wanted to meet the person that was actually going to be on their job, either designing it or engineering it or building it, right? So, thus born the concept of a doer, the project manager, project executive, and then the seller. So, they had two roles, a project manager in one hand, and then also someone responsible for business development on the other. So, that's what kind of the definition of to simplify it, a doer is a builder of projects, and a seller is a builder of relationships, right? So if you put those two things together, that's what the model consists of. And then you asked a little bit about trust, and to me, and in my career, and in the book what I talk about, that's the foundation of everything. People can like you, people can have seen your work and know you're competent, but if people don't trust you, you're not going to get that job.
Yeah.
And likewise, in a personal relationship, for people, everyone can understand this. In a personal relationship with a significant friend or a significant other, if you break someone's trust, that relationship is heavily damaged, if not broken forever, right? So, at the foundation of all of this in sales, to me, is the word trust. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, trust. Word trust is, and thank you so much for all differentiating between seller and that of builders. In that builders is more concerned on the sustainability of what they build, everything that comes in, compared to the seller. All they actually want to do is to get a paycheck and see what changes and bring. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, over your 4 decades of experience, what pattern have you seen in leaders or team that consistently succeed?
Yeah. So patterns in leadership. Unfortunately, I've seen good and bad. People that have a title or a position that puts them, in a leadership spot in a company, but they're not very good at it. And then those that are either have the position or are just natural leaders, what do they have in common? And in today's world, I think a great leader has to have a degree of empathy, has to understand that every one of the people that work for them, they may be facing different challenges. They may be personal challenges, professional challenges, health challenges, but to have an awareness for that and an appreciation for that. And then I think the most important thing a leader can do is to provide a vision. This is where we want the company to go. And here's your role in the company. Here's where I see you contributing and going with this company. Now, are you on board with me? Is that vision your vision? I think we all spend more of our time at work than we do any other activity, right? So at the end of the day, I know when I coach younger people, I'm always telling them, including my own family, my son and daughters, I say, find something that you're really passionate about
Mhm.
and do that. So if you're passionate, you won't feel like it's a burden to get up and go to work, but you're going to do something you truly enjoy, right? And I think particularly, I know a lot of your listeners are younger, and I think younger people today are really kind of hungry for leadership that provides that vision for them and that they can get excited about and feel really good about what they do and for who they do it for.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I think that particular advice you gave to your children is very, very more like pivotal, being that, yeah, work on something you're passionate about, because entrepreneurship itself is very, very crazy, more like our business, being that you are making decisions, you are doing a whole lot of things, and there's a whole lot of work you need to put in place. And having passion make it easier, make the load a bit easier to bear, and make it also easier for you to stay longer than expected. Because at the end of the day, seems entrepreneurship is of the last man standing. Everybody would have actually more like give up on their job owing to the hardship that actually comes with it. And it's really lovely with all the points you just made. Yeah, thank you so much, Kenneth.
Yeah.
Thank you. So how do you balance this the strategic practical aspect of leadership when coaching executive?
Managing the practical aspects with coaching.
Yeah, when you're actually more like coaching executive.
I think what's really kind of important for smaller growing organizations is to keep in mind that you're not chasing a bid or a job, you're chasing a relationship. And once you have the relationship, inside of that comes an opportunity to be of service. And when I say be of service, that means build the project
Yeah,
or be the electrician, be the plumber, be the mechanical contractor on that job or so forth, right? And so, I think if you just kind of show up on bid day, you're probably not going to win very much work, right? I mean, you wouldn't show up and submit a bid if you've never walked the job site, right? That would be kind of silly to do, right? So, let's take that construction analogy a little bit further and say that the building of trust becomes that foundation, right? The concrete's poured and it's curing. It's going to carry the load the rest of the way because construction is not a perfect industry. We're going to make mistakes. No set of plans and specs are perfect. None of us in the trades are perfect. Mistakes are going to happen. And owners don't necessarily want to pay for mistakes. However, if you have a relationship that built on trust, then that owner is more likely to understand the situation and give you compensation for it, right? So, I think I would say in advice to your audience, I would say that keep thinking about that it's really about finding accounts instead of chasing jobs. I'll say that again. Finding accounts instead
yeah,
of chasing jobs. And there's a difference there, right?
yeah. Finding account instead of chasing job.
Yeah, yeah. And by accounts, I mean, ideally you want to work with people that are going to come back and do it again and do it again and do it again. That's easy for builders of institutional and commercial
Yeah,
projects, right? But if you're in a residential, say you're in a residential trade, I've got two examples in our own home. A few years ago, we had a bathroom remodel, and I didn't go with the lowest bidder. I went with the guy who had a great reputation. I knew him personally, and he was high. But I also knew that he was going to get the best trades. And on a bathroom job, the tile sub was really important. And he probably had one of the best in this area. So, that trust and his reputation was really, really important. So, it applies whether you're doing institutional, commercial work, building data centers, or if you're building, remodeling a home. It's, to me, it's the same principles.
yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Thank you for the whole lot of insights on how to actually more like lead strategically. Yeah, thank you so much. So, Kenneth, what drive you? Is it passion? Is it passion for mentorship or the next generation of leader?
Yeah. So what drives me now after 40 years being around this industry is coaching and training the next generation because I don't think there's enough of it available. What you see is a lot of opportunity to trading for technology. There's always new tools, there's always new software, right? So companies spend money on that, but they don't necessarily spend money on helping individuals learn what this business is really all about. And so I see that there's a vacancy there, and I'm
Yeah,
trying to help in a very small way fill that vacancy by providing coaching and trainings. And I do it one on one, and I also do it on a broad scale. So, for example, one of my clients is a business developer for a general contractor, and I coach her once a week. I just talk to her about what's going on and what are the challenges she has and how I might be able to help her. And then tomorrow, I'm doing a training for 20 people at a architectural firm, teaching them about doer-seller and how they can think about building trust. So that's really what I do now. 40 years in and around the industry was more than enough for me. And now I take it a little bit slower and only work with the people I really want to work with. And it's really been a blessing.
yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. And I think Oh, that was really intriguing. Being that you are now helping the young leaders to actually more like gain a whole lot of perspective. I think it's really key being that a whole lot of small business around, they don't spend any much time to actually train those who are actually coming in. And just saying that you actually more like I'll cover that particular gap is very lovely, being that I think the next generation is safe having this. Yeah, thank you so much, Kenneth. So
Yeah,
Kenneth,
yeah.
for my audience who want to connect with you, who want to learn more from you, and also who want to actually more like reach out to you for coaching section and your and the materials and your book, how can they reach out to you and where's the best platform?
Thank you. I have a website. It's simply www.kenharms.com, and everything's my services, my biography, everything is in there, as well as a link to my book, which is available on Amazon, Building Trust, Winning Work. And so all the information is available there. You can reach out to me. It's got my phone number, my email, and everything. But I would suggest find me on the website first, and then we could take it from there. And if I could
Yeah,
leave you with one kind of summarizing comment, or particularly for the trades. The trades are built on trust and pride of their craftsmanship and their reputation. And business development or sales doesn't replace that. It actually protects it. And I would encourage your listeners to think about that the goal isn't about getting more work, it's better work with better people, getting better work with better people. I'll end it on
yeah, the
that.
goal. Yeah, thank you so much for leaving us on that. The goal is not, yeah, it's not just to do your job, but to leave your job to actually more like do a better job for better people. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Thank you for sharing your words of knowledge and showing us how resilient, trust, and practical leadership can transform career and organization. For listeners who want to learn more about Kenneth's strategy and coaching service, visit Kenham website, which is going to be on the show notes. This has been the Making of Me podcast. Once again, it's really an honor and a pleasure having you on the show.